Welcome back, Sparklers, to another episode of Ignite Your Spark. I'm your host, Kim Duff Selby. And as we have entered this new phase of Ignite Your Spark, where I am interviewing women over a certain age, we don't need to say what age that is, but women who will help you ignite your spark to become the best version of yourselves, no matter your age. Don't feel like over a certain age that you have to sit in a corner and crochet, because you don't. If you want to, that's great. But there is so much more to life. And it's important that we heal all the parts of ourselves that we have accumulated throughout the years so that we can indeed live Act 3 as vibrant, bountiful, generous, loving, giving human beings. Today, my guest is Eileen Marder-Mirman. And Eileen is a New York State licensed mental health counselor, but she has been integrating her private practice with spiritual healing and alternative healing modalities for a long time. She's a longtime meditator. She's been meditating for, I think it was over 47 years, and you do not hear that often. And she uses essential oils as well in her practice. And I'm a big fan of essential oils. And I just think that that's interesting. That's a lot of people do that, but they don't always say it. And I think that's really cool that you use that in your practice. She's kind of the mental health counselor you really want in your back pocket. So welcome to Ignite Your Spark, Eileen.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I did neglect to mention that you are the author of a book, which I love the title, How I Think I Should Be is BS. And we will get into that because that's a very captivating title for a book. And before we begin on learning about your genesis and how you got into the work you do, I would love to ask you, Eileen, how do you ignite your spark?
So I prefer to do things I love. So I love doing healing work. I love doing these podcasts. I have a lot of fun. I meet incredible women. I've met one man so far, but mostly it's women that I'm talking with. I love being with family. I love knitting. I don't know how to crochet yet, but I love knitting. I've been doing that since Girl Scouts. I love art. I love the theater. I just love being in and of the world. Oh, and I really love good food.
Yeah, those are great ways to ignite your spark. And I assume meditating does that as well.
Meditating has been for me a way of being present in my life. So it gives me the presence to be able to ignite my spark as best as I can each day. Some days are better than others. Today's a good day. But meditating, which I do every day, really changes my outlook. It helps me to have gratitude, even when there's a lot of difficult things going on, especially in the world today, even here in New York City, which has been a little bit of a shock, but, it helps me to be centered and to remember who I am and why I want to do healing work with people.
Yeah. And for those women listening who may not have yet begun a meditation practice, I just want to tell you it's not too late, because some people will say, oh, well, she's been meditating for 47 years. Well, of course, I'm not going to do that, but it's never too late to take up a practice that's going to center you and help you live the rest of your life more centered and present, because that's what we all need and want, in my mind, at least.
Well, it's so true. When I started, I think I was 18. And I would sit around with some of my friends with a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. We would sit on the floor, which I don't do anymore. And we would read the name of the author of the book was a famous Buddhist who came from, I believe, you know what? I'm not sure where he came, probably Japan. His name was Suzuki Roshi. He started the San Francisco Zen Center
Yeah.
and and a couple of other places over there, like Green Gulch. But anyway, a couple of different wonderful places. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I would do it anyway. And I thought I wasn't supposed to have thoughts. But what I've realized meditating after all these years was that the failure in not having no thoughts was not failure. It made a difference because each day I could be in relationship with whatever thoughts I was having, even if I didn't like those thoughts. And occasionally I would have this feeling of centeredness, but it changed my day even when I thought I was failing.
Mm.
And now they have all these different apps.
I know.
I mean, they really make a difference. And you can go to classes, and that helps if you could find a teacher that you really like, but you could just, take a few minutes on an app and it makes a difference.
Yeah. There's so many options we have today. Having started your meditation practice so young, I assume you were in college at the time or about to go. And then you went on to get did you know in college what you wanted to do, that you wanted to heal people, to help people in that way? And did you take that immediately into your practice when you got out of all the schooling you had to go to?
Great. Yes. So I always knew that I wanted to work with people. I came from a history of some difficulty in our family, which, there's transgenerational trauma from whatever lineage you're from. And I just knew that helping people is going to make a difference. My very close friend when I was growing up, her youngest sister was handicapped. And it really impacted me a lot. So when I was in high school, we would go to an institution on Long Island. So I was born in Manhattan, where I live now, and then I lived on Long Island for a lot of my life, a great deal of my life. And I would go work with the people that were very, very limited. Some of it was scary. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And then some of it was just so heart-opening. So we would go there, and then we would go to a diner afterwards and have tuna fish sandwiches on rye toast with cherry Coke. It's funny that I'm remembering that. But so I went to college. I went to Syracuse University in New York, upstate New York. And they had some wonderful programs in psychology and education for working with people with limitations. I'm not sure of all the politically correct language today, so I think that's the best way to say it. And it changed my life, in psychology and many other things that I did to open me to reality. And every piece of the training, I had to work with people in the field, and it was a big challenge for a young woman. And but I wasn't really in touch with a lot of my issues early on. I just knew I wanted to help make a difference. I wanted to save people. And I didn't realize back then that I had to really save myself. I had to wake up to myself, what was going on in me. And that came a bit later. I would say that came, well, I woke up a lot. I was involved with doing a lot of soul searching through meditation and the use of certain drugs that people are using now that was illegal, really illegal. The mushrooms,
Psilocybin, and yeah.
the psilocybin, the MDMA, and other hallucinogens. What they did is they opened me to the truth that I always felt like there was more to life than growing up a certain way. And so I integrated all of the work that I opened up to in college and graduate school into the work that I did. And I was working actually not far from where I live now, doesn't exist anymore, a rehabilitation center. And I would say to my clients, I'm going to teach you how to meditate, but you can't tell anybody.
Oh my gosh.
Now meditation is part of every therapist's, palette of help, whether it's working with deep introspective psychology or working with behavioral psychology. Everybody's using meditation. They call it mindfulness, and it really, really makes a difference.
Yeah, it really does. And you were definitely a forerunner in that, at least you got to keep it quiet, I know, but utilizing it in your practice. And I've spoken to a lot of people who are trauma-informed therapists and the like, and all of them have had to go through their own trauma, and they heal because of what they had, whether they recognized it at the time or not. And it makes perfect sense because we also teach what we need to learn and awaken within ourselves. So it makes perfect sense that you do that. Are you still practicing?
I am.
Yeah. And
So,
what other modalities do you utilize in your practice? And you say mental health. Do you deal with people with disabilities now, or is it just anyone?
mostly I work with people that are interested in integrating spirituality into their life.
Oh,
Uh, Yeah, so I teach a very profound course called Non-Dual Kabbalistic Healing, which is based on Kabbalah, Buddhism, quantum physics, and Western psychology. And that's what I do. So I work a lot, I teach, and I take Wednesdays off to be with my grandson.
yeah.
And that's an amazing pleasure. And I just love it. I love working with people and integrating the truth of reality and being in touch with our suffering so that we could heal and open our hearts and have more compassion for others.
Yeah, because your journey is healing. I mean, your focus now is helping people heal. And I personally am such a fan of marrying the spiritual with the actual knowledge of psychology or sociology or whatever modality you need to use to unearth what's inside, because we are multifaceted. We're not just the brain, we're the soul, we're the spirit, we're all of those. And I think it's wonderful that you incorporate all of those into your practice. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording about your book. And I want to go into that a little bit and what the genesis of the book was and why you wrote it, and how it's interesting that you said it would have been so different had you written it in your 30s and it wasn't time. And I find that so true of many of us over 50 that, oh, now is the time to do thus and such, whether it was a dream we pursued or sort of a niggling want that we had to do something. And now it's right. Now it's time. And there's a huge pro-aging movement out there, and I'm loving it. I'm here for it all. But let's talk about how I think I should be as BS, from hiddenness to open-hearted. Now, was this something you wrote to heal yourself?
Well, what I wanted to do is share with people what I've done, not tell people what to do. So I've done a lot of healing on myself. I've gone through a lot, and I wanted people to know that there's another way to look at things. So, a lot of us were raised in the 50s and 60s, talking about over 50, with having to be a certain way, especially as women. Or girls, and that affected me greatly. And I realized it's a lot of BS. And once we wake up to those preconceptions about how we think we should be and what would be good, I used to think that I had to be a certain way to get love, to be appreciated. And that's not true, because either people are going to appreciate you or they're not. And the thought back in the day that somebody wouldn't like me was horrifying. But the truth of the matter is, I don't like everybody. So
why would we expect everybody to like us? It's so interesting you say this, because my husband and I were just having a conversation on Saturday Night Live last night, well, this is going to air a lot longer, a lot in the future, but they did a little skit on people pleasing. And that's how I was raised, to be a people pleaser. And so was my husband. And it's one of those things that because we don't think we're good enough, we have to please everybody. I know I was like a major people pleaser, and I didn't think I was good enough for this, that, or the other. And I think it's great that you're calling BS on all this, because it is the way we were raised, and it is the way society was and the media when we were growing up. And again, now there's still media, because there are young girls who are not going to think they're enough if their lips aren't plump and their eyebrows aren't this way and their skin isn't smooth. It's really a shame. It's really, really makes me sad that young women today are still being raised in the same way, media portraying them as, you're not good enough if you weigh 20 pounds more than so-and-so. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, when we were growing up, we had Twiggy on the cover, and that didn't even make any sense, like to have to look like that. So no. I mean, we all tried to be as skinny, and we were as skinny as we could be, but it's not about being the true self. It's about, and not expressing your creativity and your love and your passion. That's what they're teaching the girls now. Just, you could do anything you want. You could, the sky's the limit. You're loved no matter what. Maybe not by everybody. And you have to love yourself. They're teaching the girls all these different things, but not everybody is being taught that way, because I also work with some younger people, that haven't been taught that in their 20s and 30s, but mostly I work with people that are older. But I work with a lot of people in their 20s and 30s and 40s, actually all the way through their 70s.
Well, what age were you when you really tapped into your authentic, true self?
I started to, oh God, I think I started to, even when I was in high school. I just knew that there was more to life. I just knew that I wasn't fully real. So, I did a lot of vision quests. I tried Buddhism, I tried shamanism, and I think it's all great, but I was looking to get away from my problems, not have a relationship with them, and transform them. So the transforming, I would say, really happened when I was a young mother. I remember I was nursing the baby, probably within the first few months, and the baby who's turning 40. And I remember realizing that I could kill. I could kill to protect my son, and just the knowledge that I could kill made me feel empowered. And, it shook me up a little bit. But those of us who are psychotherapists also know that we have to help people own these aspects of ourselves. Otherwise, we act them out in a certain way, and it hurts us and it hurts others. So if we could be empowered by knowing that we could kill under the right circumstances, right, to protect. But the wrong circumstances are when we're nasty to somebody and we don't take responsibility for ourselves, because we're not willing to feel our own vulnerabilities and our own fears and our own sensitivities. The more we feel that, the more compassionate we are. So that's really, in essence, the work that I do with people.
And it's interesting because you are really combining traditional talk therapy with alternative healing modalities. And what is do you have a favorite modality you like to work with, or what are some of the other ones you utilize?
I would say all the modalities that I work with are integrated into Eileen. So I work with this Kabbalistic healing that I mentioned to you before a few minutes ago. I work with Psyche. I work with my intuition, and I have people talk about things. I work with journaling. I work with so many different things, the essential oils to help people have more energy or to be more creative. I've worked with art therapy. I don't really do much of that anymore because I'm not doing one-on-one. Yeah, I'm not doing one-on-one in the apartment. COVID like kiboshed all that.
Right. So you do
Um,
a Zoom, everything via Zoom.
I've been doing everything via Zoom or on the telephone.
Yeah.
So like a woman tomorrow morning at 9:30, she lives like 30 blocks, maybe 25 blocks away from me. It'll be on the telephone because she's a professional woman. She has two little kids, and it's just easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, back to the book.
yeah.
We all have a certain way of how we think we should be. And you said you were a teenager, though, when you realized how I think I should be is BS. Is that right?
Really true.
And
I,
you're sharing your stories in it. Are there exercises? Are there ways? How can someone utilize your book as a self-healing tool, or is it not meant to be that?
so I think it's a self-healing tool in many ways. I talk a little bit about what I do, like with ritual. I talk about prayer. I talk about family and what it's like to be with family. I talk about death. I talk about love of animals. I talk about many different things. I talk about hatred and giving it a place, forgiveness, kindness, all different kinds of things that I've realized through the years. So it's what people have said is it helps them to know that there is hope, that we really can change, we really can grow, and that life is a process of, I believe, opening our heart and becoming aware of where we're closed, becoming aware of our fears, being kind to our fears. With forgiveness, I believe that you don't have to forgive your abuser. A lot of therapists think you have to forgive everybody. You have to start with forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, for being this imperfect person who's been foolish and has done things that are not cool, and really forgive yourself. And that opens up your heart and your compassion more to be a guiding light for others to do the same. So that's my thought on all of that.
Well, can I ask you, how do you have a tip or a trick for someone how they can begin to forgive themselves? That's a big one, because we can't just go, okay, well, I forgive you for being a stupid teenager and doing thus and such. Can
Yeah,
you tell me how to do that?
yeah. So one way, if you work with journaling, is to write about your self-hatred, right? To really start to get in touch with it, to become aware of it. You don't even have to journal if that feels like too much. So it's more about waking up awareness, waking up consciousness, becoming aware of the negative thoughts we're having with ourselves, which is happening all the time. We're highly critical. We're very tough on ourselves, and becoming aware of it. It's because we learned that it wasn't safe to be powerful. But if you really allow yourself to know what your negative thoughts are, it really makes a difference. And then you don't have to do anything magically. I mean, it's helpful to have guides, coaches, therapists, spiritual teachers. There's so many of us out there that are really helpful. This course about healing, Ignite Your Spark After 50 sounds like it's going to be fabulous. So there's all different ways to really work with this, become conscious, and think about it during the day. How am I going against myself? And as you wake up to it, things start to shift organically, because there's deep inside of us is our soul that wants to wake up and be more of who we are, not less of who we are.
Right.
So that's just a simple thing to do.
It is. And when I'm thinking about forgiving ourselves, I'm thinking about as teenagers, and I brought this up on some other podcasts and discussions with other guests, that I had a somewhat abusive boyfriend when I was 17, abusive physically only once, but I would say emotionally. And it's really a journey to forgive that person. And it's also a journey, though, to forgive myself for being a teenager. But I give myself grace for the fact that I knew no better. I didn't know. I mean, he wasn't a bad person. He had bad qualities. But it is really challenging for some people. I know that, to forgive the parts of themselves for whatever they might have done or said or how they had been. And I think that is where journaling really is powerful as well, because it's not just in the here and now and forgiving ourselves and all the thoughts we have now, but realizing that some of the thoughts we have came from not being good enough, not thinking we were good enough then. People really hit hard. It's hard to dig down deep and go back to your past. It's not like it's fun or easy.
Right. That's why it's good to have a guide.
Yeah.
I know some people don't have time for that. So to listen to podcasts, to take courses that are not long, can really, really make a difference to help you wake up, become more conscious, to become more real, and learn little ways to shift so that you're not blowing up your whole life, and you make it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make it better.
Well, I think that's what we all want to do, is make our lives better. And a lot of it is reflecting on the past and bringing it into the present to be the best version of ourselves and heal that part of us. Do you have currently online classes that people can take, or do you just work one-on-one?
So right now I'm in the middle of teaching a very intensive course. Last year I taught a course that I built based on the book called How I Think I Should Be Is BS, which was called something like starting to stop the BS. So I will be giving, there'll probably be a waiting list. I will be giving another class. It's a 6-week class, but first there's a free webinar. So, women of all ages are invited to that. I'll send the information to Kim about that.
Great. And what is your website if people want to go to that?
So my website is Eileen, Eileen, Marder, Marder, Merman, Mirman. And you could find it easily because I've done so many, I'm all over the internet. So, or you could look up the name of the book, How I Think I Should Be Is BS, and you'll see my name. And then you just go to EileenMarder-Mirman.com.
Well, I'll put all that in the show notes, of course, as well. But I just have people hear it. Yeah. Is there any other thing you might want to leave my listeners with to help them maybe heal a portion of themselves or ignite their own spark within, something that they can do? You've already given us some great information. Just to close it, I wondered if you had something else.
Yeah. So something about power. To know that your negative thoughts, not just about yourself, but about others, is a natural thing to have. And the more we own it, like I said about wanting to kill, the more we own it, the more we can transform it and feel more empowered, as opposed to powering over others. It's simple like that.
Yeah, it is simple, but it is very powerful. No coincidence I happen to use that word. Standing in our power is really important, and not giving it away is equally as important. Yeah.
Right. And if you become conscious of how you're giving it away, that's really great to know so that you could change it. You can't change anything until you know what the underpinnings are, what's going on unconsciously. Yeah. And then there's these different techniques with whether it's creative coaching or working with somebody like me or so many other wonderful people out there that help you to wake up to these different things and transform into more of your authentic self. Really, that's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. Thank you so much, Eileen, for your time today. I hope that everybody listening had their spark ignited so that they can actually dig deep inside, begin to forgive yourself, become aware so that you can become your authentic self. It doesn't matter your age, 20, 30, 40, 50, and beyond, because our authentic self is always there. It's our spark. It's what shines when we are happy. It shines when we are doing something we love. And when you walk into a room and you are glowing, the rest of the room is going to glow as well. They're going to want your special sauce.
Very true.
Well, thank you, Eileen, and thank you, listeners. Until next time, thanks for shining.